Well, greetings there. Welcome on into VGMporium, video game music and more. And who am I? I am Rage Cage, the proprietor of this den of obscurities. And one thing I want to say before getting this started is that it was a blast having Chuck of Haberchuck on last week, bringing on his smooth jams and getting a nerd out about chiptunes and music with him. So now, what do I have for you today? Well, last week I had mentioned that I'd either be doing a chip focus or something else. Well, I decided on the chip focus, and what did I land on? The YMF262, also known as the OPL3. And as you can probably tell by this opening track, it is an FM sound chip. But before I fill your noggin with some really cool but probably unnecessary knowledge, I'm going to tell you a bit about this track here. It is Welcome by Oxygenstar from the compilation album FM is for the People, Volume 1 from 2009. And I discovered this compilation when I was really starting to dig into like FM synthesis and FM chiptune. And Oxygenstar would be a name I'd be seeing all over the place when I was really getting into it, like doing those deep dives and finding all this stuff, especially on 8-Bit Collective, and then after that went down Micro Collective. Usually doing some really cool like grungy FM stuff like this, especially using the OPL2 and the OPL3, which, well, there we go. It's time to fill your head up with some knowledge to, to make some room here. So, the YMF262, also known as OPL3, is a 2-operator FM synthesis chip, and it is the successor to the YM3812, also known as the OPL2. And so whereas the YM3812 only had 9 channels of sound, the YMF262 had a whopping 18 channels. And with that, there were multiple different configurations that could be done with these 18 channels, and I will get more into that after this next track here. And this is definitely going to be a familiar tune for a lot of you old PC heads. So this song is Piece of Cake Extended, and this was a song that was packed in with Microsoft Windows 3.0, and I believe all the way up to Microsoft Windows XP, and this was done by Passport Designs. That was Piece of Cake Extended, and was originally found in Microsoft Windows 3.0, and was done by Passport Designs. And as I mentioned before, this would be recognized by old PC heads because this was part of a song or music package that included songs like Passport.mid and Canyon.mid, which Pixelated Audio did a great episode on just a few months ago, and I would recommend you go check it out. Canyon.mid, and they actually talked to the guy that originally composed the song and look at all these different covers and remixes and the original as well. So now, for many of us that are in our mid-30s all the way up to late 40s, would have heard the MIDI versions in Windows 95 to XP. But for those that are a bit older, would remember Windows 3.x, which was basically the bridge between DOS and 95. And those computers would have a Sound Blaster card or equivalent, and many would have the FM sound chip, the AdLib. And so there were two versions of these songs. So as I said, this is a Piece of Cake Extended, which uses the full functionality of the YMF262. But then there's a basic version, which is using only half the channels so that it could be played on a YM3812 if the computer only had, that sound chip on the sound card. Actually, here, let me show you the difference. Take a listen. And as you can tell, the extended version has a lot more beefiness to it than the basic version. Largely due to having the extra 9 channels, but also due to the sound capabilities. So going back to the YM3526, or the OPL, which is the first chip in the series, only had access to modulating sine waves. But then when its enhanced version, the YM3812, came out, it gained access to 3 more waves to modulate, that being the half sine, an absolute sine, and a pseudo sawtooth, which allowed it to create much more complex tones. And so the YMF262, not only having the 18 channels, but also gained 4 new waves, that being the alternate sine, a camel sine, square, and a logarithmic sawtooth. Logarithmic. Looks like a really stretched out sine with some really sharp corners at each end. So you can imagine having access to all these different waveforms to modulate can give it all these really crazy sounds. It's really, these sounds sound really big just for being a 2-operator. Oh, and for those that aren't too versed in FM synthesis, operators are basically the oscillators that create the sound. So one is a carrier, which creates the sound, and then one's the modulator, which actually modulates the sound the carrier's making, so then you get all these really complex tones and crazy sounds that you're hearing right now. So now I'm going to give your head a little break here, and I'm going to play you some more music, and then after that we're going to come back with some more brain-swelling facts. So this next track coming up here is Dreamy Forest from Comet Summoner, and this is composed by Seiichi Takamoto, Comoesta, Higashitotsuka, Einosuke Nagao, and Kaos. That was Dreamy Forest from Comet Summoner, composed by, I'm just going to call them the Compile Sound Team. As if you want to know more about these 4 and of this game, I would highly recommend you go check out, again, episode 47, fresh from VGM Rips, where I actually cover this game, and it is actually this track that is part of the reason why I wanted to do this episode, because I wanted to play more music from this game. I'm getting so excited. Because the majority of this OST is kind of like your simple, cheesy, happy kind of fare, but then there's a couple tracks, this one, and then another one, Dark Witch, which just like totally tonal change, and then they kind of go back to being kind of whimsical, cheesy. But this song has been stuck in my head for, those months since I made that episode. So now there's no particular tricks I can really point out on this one that, they're doing special with the chip other than, sounding really good. I mean, like, amazingly good. Well, they are using all 18 channels to full effect. Most likely it's just using one channel for the percussion because, here's something to highlight, that the OPL series of sound chips has a special percussion mode, whereas 3 channels are set aside to be used for like any combination of the 5 preset percussion sounds, so that being a kick, snare, hi-hat, cymbal, and a tom. And these are made with the sound chip, so they're not sampled, they are, synthesized percussion tones. And this is used in all of the OPL series chips, so even the OPLL, which is the YM2413, which is a cut-down version of the YM3812. But now, another mode that was introduced in the YMF262 OPL3 is the ability to combine 2 channels of 2-op to create 4-operator synthesis. So you can get sounds like you could create with the YM2612 or the YM2151, but with the added bonus of having access to all those different waveforms to modulate. So now, I can't really tell if this song is using that mode or not, but possibly the other track that I was talking about, Dark Witch, uses it, and you know what? I'm just going to indulge myself. I'm going to play for you Dark Witch from Comet Summoner. That was Dark Witch from Comet Summoner, composed by those maniacs at Compile. So again, no percussion mode here. I can't tell if they're using any of the 4-op mode at all. It's really hard to tell with all the channels. Wait, hold up. God damn. But yeah, no, just watching it go on like the player I have here, seeing all the channels go, all the sounds are jumping all over the place. It's like dynamic channel switching, and I can't tell if it's like, sacrificing any of those channels for a 4-op mode or not. So now, like, the cool thing with all this modes is that there's so many different configurations you can do with it. And hold up. Whoever did this track was definitely watching Back to the Future at some point. Undeniable. But yeah, as I was saying, there's multiple different modes you can do. So you could just do the standard 18 2-operator channels. You can have 15 2-operator channels with the 3 channels set aside for the 5 drum sounds. You can do 6 2-operator channels with 6 4-operator channels, or you could do 3 2-op, 6 4-op, and 3 set aside for the percussion. So now I've got the next track here for you, and I'm really excited for this one. This is coming from a master of the sound chip, as well as the YM3812 as well. This is The Summit by Louis Gorenfeld, also known as Extent of the Jam. That was The Summit by Louis Gorenfeld, aka Extend of the Jam. And this was only done like a couple months ago. And as you can tell, this is definitely not his first. He's been actually tracking jams, as he puts it, since 1992. Using either AdLib Tracker or Rad Tracker, which is Reality AdLib Tracker, which emulated or not emulated, but actually used the OPL2 chips on MS-DOS computers and early Windows computers, I believe. I am not too versed on the histories of these, my apologies. Now as to which software he's used to make this song, that would be Rad Tracker 2. So now back to Louis G. He is a San Francisco Bay-based musician, not only doing FM tracker music, but all kinds of other demo scene type stuff, as well as digital fusion, and he's created a few VSTs as well. One of these being Digit's Phase Distortion Synthesizer. But I didn't learn about him until about 2011 through a little album called FM Funk Madness presented by Soundshock. And if you'd like to know more about this FM Funk album, I did a whole episode about the trilogy of albums called FM Funk Trilogy. This is episode 8. Go check it out. But yes, after hearing his track in that, the enemy, my enemy's my enemy / No Speed Trap, I kind of went down the rabbit hole of finding all his music. I found his website where he hosted a lot of his OPL2 and OPL3 music, as well as hunting out all kinds of tracker modules that I could play in my app Modizer. Suffice to say is that I really like his music, and I would highly recommend you go check him out. I'm going to be linking his SoundCloud and any other sites I can find where he hosts his music. So now, as far as some really cool things on this track, I like to point out this Sid-like lead right here. When I mean Sid as something like you'd hear in a C64, just that kind of cool phasey almost. Again, mixing those waveforms to get really, some really cool sounds, and then just that really deep, kind of almost squarish bass going on in the background. Other than that, though, it's just a really well put, made song because he's been using this, this sound this chip for so long. He just, it's it's second nature, I'd imagine. Now, one last little cool tidbit here is that on the song where, on SoundCloud where he posted this, he notes that he is working towards making another music disc release. He doesn't say if this will be part of it, but I'd imagine, mentioning it in this song's description that this song may be part of that disc release, which will be really cool. Now, I'm going to tell you here, there's not much more I can tell you about this sound chip. There's a few more factoids I have left here, but I'll tell you those after this last song. So, what I'm going to play for you next is Stage 1 from Antman, and this was composed by Kwon Gu-hee and Park In-yob. That was Stage 1 from Antman, composed by Kwon and Park In-yob. And no, it's not that Ant-Man. It's a different Ant-Man. It's his actual name is Gaimiman, and it's a manhwa series by Kim Tae-young. So yes, there are a few similarities between the two. You know, they're both comic series. They have like super powered suits, though I think this Gaimiman doesn't have the ability to shrink or grow large. He's just a man in a super powered ant suit. And thanks to Hardcore Gaming 101, I'm able to know that this is a very glitchy game that doesn't control very well. But, you know, in my search of trying to find composer information, I found a site that actually has some better information on this game. And so, as it explains it, Ant-Man is a fun futuristic platformer. It is in the vein of Thexter and Mega Man. The gameplay is fast, fun, and fluid with attractive anime-style graphics. And this is from the site DOS Gamer. So, is it fast, fun, and fluid? Is it glitchy and uncontrollable? I don't know. What I do know is that I can't find anything on the composers or about the company itself, Namilsoft, that made it. Which is a little bit of a shame because, Korean VGM composers don't really have much information out there on them because, it's either Western or Japanese composers that get the attention. And I know I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm planning on doing a focus on Korean composers, even though I may not be able to find all the information on them. It'll be really cool because a lot of the music they make is really, really good, especially when using either the YM3812 or the YMF262. YMF262. So now the last few fun facts I have for you on this chip here. Let's see. So the previous two chips had this mode called CSM, or Composite Sine Mode, which is basically sine wave synthesis. And the YMF262 removed that. Let's see here. It outputs audio in digital I/O form, which requires an external DAC chip such as the YAC512 or the YMZ280B, which has used on like many arcade boards by Tecmo, and one game in particular is Taoki Densho Angel Eyes. Check that one out; it's really good. And the OPL3 was so cool that so many other companies, creating chips after this. Included compatibility with the YMF262. So one example is the ESFM, created by ESS Technologies, which itself has 20 voices and 72 operators, but it has two modes: the native mode, which has this 20 voices, or legacy mode, which, basically is compatible with the YMF262 to, a certain level of faithfulness. And that's all I got for you on this chip here. I probably could have reached out to somebody that had a lot more intimate knowledge on it, but, I just wanted this to be kind of like a simple one. And to highlight just some really cool songs that, have been stuck in my head for a while, especially the stuff from Comet Summoner. So, again, if you're new to the show, you can find it on all your favorite podcatchers, such as Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, Audible, as well as you could go to the website, VGMporium.wordpress.com. And there's even you can find it on Twitter and Instagram. And if you'd like to request a track called Special Orders, you can send it to VGMporium@gmail.com or go to the Discord, which is linked in the show notes or on the main, website's main page, where you can actually put in your special order, put feedback, chat with other VGM enthusiasts. And I've been your host, Rage Cage, and you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram, as well as on SoundCloud, where I post my original music. So now, speaking of special orders, that's what's going to be the next week's episode, is because I got enough in to do it, because I wait until I get 5 or 6, and then I do its own dedicated episode, and then the week after that, I have another guest. Who is it going to be? You won't know until that episode comes out. I'm currently editing it, and I'm hoping to have it done by then.